The Book of True Life, Teachings of the Divine Master, Volume 12, Spiritual Teaching 354, Love Each Other. 1. Come once more before the Master, O disciples who hasten your step to arrive as soon as possible before the skirt of the mount, from where you hear the greeting and the advice that I send you. From the moment you begin to hear the echo of this voice that I send you from infinity, your spirit begins to climb, to rise, until you reach the top and find me giving my eternal lesson of love and wisdom. 2. This is how you prepare for each of my manifestations, climbing from the foot of the mountain to finish when the lesson comes to an end at the top, united and identified with my spirit. 3. I am giving you the last lessons in this stage of my communication with man, and you listen avidly. You drink, drop by drop, its essence, and you become stronger in your faith. With this you give joy to my spirit, because when my word ceases in this way, you will remain as faithful witnesses. I will leave you prepared to continue my work in the heart of humanity. 4. If you meditate deeply, you will see that I have taken you into my care to become true apostles, that I have spoken not only through my word, but in the trials and events of your life, that in them I have been polishing and refining, because I want to leave you as preachers of the truth. Do not go to pronounce my words without your heart feeling them, without you living my teaching, so that your works of this time speak more than your words of the ages past, and give an example of humility, conformity, and spiritual elevation. I want when that the world sees you suffer and give proofs of strength, learn to trust, and even to smile in the midst of pain. If you practice my teaching, your work will leave good seed in the hearts of your brothers. 5. You can no longer lie to humanity. He has evolved so much that you know how to discover both the truth and the impostor. 6. The case in which the sects of the Pharisees and Sadducees rose up over the people will not be repeated among you, surprising him and deceiving him with false examples. These sects will not arise at this time in the bosom of my people. There will not be Pharisees and Sadducees among my new apostles. Anyone who does not consider himself prepared to preach will close his lips. He will close his hands until he has been transformed and become my disciple. Until then, he will let his lips open to pronounce my words and overflow the treasure that your spirit keeps. That is why I have spoken to you a lot, to leave you prepared, so that the world does not surprise you with its theories or destroy the temple that you have built in your heart. That is why I have had a long time to teach you, so that my word will clarify your spirit, and faith will take deep roots, and even your matter will participate spiritually, and thus prepared as my instruments, you would manifest to the world the power and grace with which you have been given. 7. I have not come to use scientists, philosophers, or wise men among humanity of this time to carry my seed of love. I have chosen the humble, the hungry and thirsty for spiritual elevation, the eager for eternity, those who long for the peace of the universe. These hungry and naked of the world's goods belong to the people of spiritual Israel. In calling these creatures to entrust them with such a great mission, I have not chosen them at random. I have chosen wisely to each spirit to make it hear my voice and point out its path, its journey. Give him the land and the seed and also the tool, because once prepared, O humble and poor of the earth, I will send you to the world to show and offer this light that has filled you with joy and that will later spread throughout the world. 8. I made you wait for the fulfillment of my promises, and until now you see them fulfilled. In your previous incarnations, you sought the fulfillment of that promise of mine to return among yourselves, and having not found it. But your spirit, which possesses eternal life, was leaving its fleeting envelopes as garments that are destroyed in the fight. And he persevered in his hope, and at last you see your faith and confidence rewarded, that my word had to be kept. Today you have seen the long path that leads to me open before your spirit. 9. Wasn't my law and my teaching of the previous times the same path that I am pointing out to you now? I tell you, in my doctrine that I taught and revealed to you from the earliest times, I prepared you for the knowledge of what I am talking about today. Through Moses and the prophets, I made known to you the law, so that you might live with justice and respect among you, and offered me the tribute with your judicious and orderly life. You recognized that only by doing good you lived in grace, and that I rewarded your works when they obeyed the dictates of the law, and instead, when you ignored their voices, you felt that you had not pleased your Father, and your conscience demanded your infidelity. And despite the fact that you had such wise teachings in my envoys, you did not glimpse that they had led you to the knowledge of spiritual life. Humanity did not cross the thresholds of that wonderful life that you will all possess, and that is the end for which you were created. 10. Times past, I sent you the Messiah, and through him I spoke to the spirit and heart of men, so that they felt that the one who spoke to them taught with his life and examples, so that his doctrine would be taken as a heavenly message, as an invitation to true life. And you opened your eyes, your heart and spirit, and you knew whose word it was. You received his examples, his wonders and teachings, and in him you present the beauty of spiritual life. Did you know that humble master did not come to reign in this world, did not come to settle on earth, and that he would pass only fleetingly to return to the mansion from where he had come, to wait there for his disciples after consummating his redemptive work? 11. And where did that master turn who had come to give proof of his infinite love for men? Where did he who was a source of tenderness and wisdom come from? And where would his disciples look for that bread of life and that wine of love? How many loved and felt him when they saw him leave? They would have wanted to follow him to his mansion where he was turning. It is that their spirits had awakened to life, feeling called and caressed by the voice of the Master, by that teaching that explained what human affections mean, material nature, and also the meaning of spiritual life. 12. He did not make you ignore the world, nor did he separate from men good delicacies, nor healthy pleasures, or sacred duties to the family. He only steered humanity down the moral path of this earthly life and spirit, along the infinite path that leads to the Father. With that divine teaching, virtue flourished. The Spirit saw the door open for elevation, for the passing of every being that had complied with its precepts, but not one felt that after that time I would come once more with my words to continue my work, and that I would reveal even more to you than I said in the Messiah. 13. Before leaving this world, I said to my disciples, the Comforter will come among you, the Spirit of truth, which will reveal to you what is in its arcanum. And those of you who long to know the secrets of the life of the Spirit, which never end, you waited one life after another, one and another test, and each one of them was the fulfillment of one of those words. Did you know that the Father, He could not break His promise, because from the beginning you saw that every word that comes from Him is accomplished, and at last you have at this time the prize for your hope. 14. Here is the continuation of my work, my coming in the third era as a spirit of consolation, surrounded by my great armies of angels, as it was written. Those follower spirits of mine are part of that consolation that He had promised you, and you have already had proof of His charity and of His peace, in His sound advice and examples of virtue. Through them I have granted you benefits, and they have been intermediaries between you and my Spirit. When you have perceived the grace and gifts with which they are clothed and their humility, you have felt inspired to do works as pure as those they have done in your life. When they have entered your home, you have been honored by His spiritual presence. 15. Blessed are you if you have recognized its elevation. But the Master tells you, do you think they have always been virtuous beings? Do you not know that a great number have inhabited the earth, and have known of weakness and big fowls? And look at them now. They do not retain any stain. But it is that they heard the voice of consciousness. They woke up to love, and repented of their past faults. And in that crucible they have purified themselves to rise worthy and serve me today, serving humanity. His Spirit has set Himself, out of love, the task of helping His companions to restore all that is not done when they inhabited the earth, and have accepted, as a divine gift, the opportunity to come to sow seed they did not sow, and to destroy every imperfect work they had done. So now you look with surprise their humility, their patience, and their meekness, and on occasions you have seen them suffer for their restitution. But their love and their recognition, which is greater than the obstacles that are presented to them, overcome everything, and are willing to go to the point of sacrifice. 16. Do not increase their bitterness. Be docile, understanding, and obedient to their advice. Return His caresses. They are your spiritual brothers, and as they are now, you will be tomorrow. You will also inhabit that world, and your love, effort, and repentance will wash away the stains that have remained in you to be clean and pure like them. Your perseverance and love of goodwill make you send your prayer about those you leave on earth wrapped in vicissitudes and evil, and you will say to the Father, Lord, allow me to return, although in an invisible and intangible way, to my brothers, to bring a message of peace and health to those who suffer. And I will grant you this grace. Then you will be like angels, and nothing will prevent you from visiting the worlds of atonement, carrying all that source of grace and goodness that I have entrusted to you as my children. And as you go, overflowing your spirit, you will be calming and reaching higher elevation. 17. When I ring the bell for the last time, calling my children to hear my word for the last time, communication of those spiritual hosts, they will also cease. You will not have it again through faculties. You will no longer hear His advice in that way, but they will not be absent from you. They will remain as guardians and protectors of humanity. It will be enough for you to pray and evoke their advice so that they come to your aid, but do it with purity so that you feel their influence and do not doubt their presence, because in beings of such a high degree of spirituality, there is only charity for their companions. 18. What has the spirit world come to teach at this time? He has only brought the explanation and analysis of my revelations. He has not revealed or taught you anything that has not been said before by me. He has not anticipated my teachings, but he has been a prophet and a forerunner and an announcement in the time of my manifestations before men. 19. When you have prepared to offer your understanding for the communication of these beings, you who have this faculty, you have achieved from them manifestations of the purity and power with which they are clothed. How much humility in their words, and how much obedience and love to my work have been shown by your spiritual brothers, and how they have illuminated your life with their teachings. 20. The days of my last demonstrations are approaching, and if you do not prepare yourself, spokesmen and faculties, you will not reach to receive my final revelations, my orders and directions that I have to leave you. But after this time, how much you will have to fight to obtain what my arcanum has in store for you. You have to earn merits to receive from spirit to spirit what you should have received through your precious gifts. My spiritual world, as an obedient servant, will cease to communicate at the end of this stage, and even if it is invoked in my name, you will not take the human brain again, and will only enlighten and inspire your healthy advice to those who call, and he will pour out his charity on all. I have fixed that day for you, as I have limited each era in each of the times or stages in which I have manifested my spirit. And in this, in which I have come surrounded by my spiritual hosts, this is the end, the year 1950, as I have told you through my spokesman. 21. Take advantage of this time. Be persevering, children. Be eager disciples. I still find in some of you lethargy, in others ignorance of the moments you are living, and the hour that is approaching for the people. I see in some the intention to continue invoking the spirit world, and others in the hope of my determination, but I will not grant one or the other what they ask of me. 22. Go back and let your spirit remember the events that surrounded Moses at the end of his journey. The people saw in that man the representation of your father. Did you know that he was spiritually powerful, just and wise in the laws and orders that it dictated, strong in the fight and resigned in trials, full of faith, energy, and life? While the people rested through the heavy and long journey, Moses watched, lift his spirit to his Lord, and strengthened in his prayer. He contemplated his people and enveloped them in his love. While he faltered in battles and mistrust made him blaspheme, Moses raised his arms, invoking Jehovah, imploring strength and courage for those who followed, and after his prayer he returned to his own to stimulate them in their strength and thus lead them to victory. 23. After so many struggles, so many trials, the people began to trust their guide. They did not think that one day they would have to leave it, that, like every human being, would have to abandon terrestrial life to take flight. And that day, marked by me, finally arrived. The days of Moses were already numbered, and not one more of those assigned was to pass. And he, sensing his end, he climbed a mountain from which he could contemplate the lands of Canaan, to which they had not yet reached, and from that mountain encompassed the people with his gaze, and said, "Keep walking until you have reached the land of promise." 24. When the people knew that their guide, their legislator and prophet, had entered the hour of agony, they raised their prayer to tell me, leave it between us, because we have not reached the gates of Canaan. Let him lead us up there, and then take it to your bosom." And the men and women were shocked. The elderly and children wept. But the time had come, and that guide's life did not last a moment longer. And it is not that I was not moved by the pain of the people, and before the love they professed to the one in whom they saw as my representation, but that the hour was marked, and my designs are wise and irrevocable. 25. Moses came to me, and the people kept walking after the successor. It was then that Israel tested the strength that it had imparted. She already knew how to know the obstacles and defend herself from the unleashed elements, and thus she fought and defeated her adversaries, endured hardships, and did not deviate from the path that led to the promised land, and found that the Lord had reason to call Moses, because he had fulfilled his mission and could already rest in the loving bosom of his Father. The people had learned to live and observe the law, which I had given them through my chosen one. 26. The same thing happened in the second era, in the Messiah. 3 years he lived with his disciples, was followed by great crowds who loved him deeply. There was no longer for those disciples nothing other than hearing their master preaching his divine teaching. Following in his footsteps, they did not experience hunger or thirst. There was no stumbling or some obstacle. Everything was peace and happiness in the environment that surrounded that group. And yet, when they were more absorbed in the contemplation of his beloved Messiah, he told them, "Times will change. I will leave you, and you will remain like sheep among wolves. The hour is drawing near, and it is necessary for me to return to the place where I have come. And you, for a while, you will be left alone to bear the testimony of what you have seen and heard to the hungry and thirsty for love and justice. Work in my name, and then I will take you with me to the eternal abode." 27. Those words saddened the disciples, and as the hour drew near, the Messiah repeated with greater insistence that announcement that spoke of his departure, but at the same time it comforted the hearts of those who heard it, telling them that his Spirit would not be absent, and that he would continue to watch over the world, and if they would prepare to carry his word as a message of comfort and hope to humanity, at that time he would speak through their mouths and perform wonders. 28. The Divine Spirit was announcing in those words the end of that stage, and when the Messiah was taken by the crowds to be tried as a disruptor of public order, the disciples were shocked and rose up against those who accused him. But the Master calmed their spirits and told them, "Do not fear, that the hour has not come." Many tried to disperse the followers of the Messiah and even punish the Master, but he, knowing the moment when he would surrender himself, he continued in his mission of preparing that people so that they knew how to await the test with strength. 29. And when he meekly put himself into the hands of his enemies, his disciples protested and indignant said, "Why is he delivered in this way and does not resist? Why don't you run away from those who don't know who you are?" And one of those disciples drew his sword to wound one of those who had come to apprehend him. And the Master turned to him to say to him, "Sheathe your sword. Don't defend me like this. The announced time has arrived, and what is written must be fulfilled." 30. When those men and women saw their Lord in the midst of the mob, they felt that they were going to lose him forever, that they would never hear his divine word again. In those days when the Master had made them inhabit regions transporting them in their ecstasy to the plants of the Heavenly Father, they would be left behind, with only the memory of those happy days of communion and beatitude. 31. Those disciples begged for mercy for their innocent master, hoping to see him free again, preaching for the roads and villages as they had seen it in those short years. But the tears or requests were not enough of the multitudes who loved him, and the life of the master did not extend beyond the hour that was marked, not an instant more. 32. Even after the sacrifice was consummated and those disciples returned to daily life, and their aching hearts calmed down, they made a study. They penetrated deep reflections, and they understood that their master had not left his work started, if not finished with perfection, that he had come from an unknown kingdom to which he returned after having completed his work, that his life as a man and as a divine envoy had been exemplary, and that this constituted a stage, a precious time in which he should leave in the hearts of his faithful a wealth of wisdom and show them the way by which they could reach the promised kingdom. 33. After a while, they began to have great evidence that the Master inspired them and bestowed wonders in the world, exercise of their mission as apostles, and verified that the Spirit spoke through their mouths when they prepared, and they were preparing to carry their message of love to those who waited for it. They were these first disciples, true representatives, and imitating him who had taught them, they repeated his great works in sinners. 34. Through this fulfillment, they understood their Master much more. They felt enlightened and filled with his Spirit to carry out the mission that had been entrusted to them. 35. The divine word that spoke through the Messiah is the same that now returns to you, to continue his work. I have come to communicate through men and women chosen by me. They are human beings, simple and humble, who knew how to prepare themselves to fulfill their delicate mission, and who reach the end of this stage. They will continue to live among you, continue their work, and enter a greater struggle to achieve spiritual communication with me. 36. Moses symbolically climbed the mountain, and when he reached the end of his journey, he ascended to me. The Messiah was erected on a cross, and from there rose to meet me. And today, in the third era, in which I have spoken through my spokesman, I will only pick up my universal ray, that powerful ray that descends on the instruments of whom I have served, enlightened and moved this world from one pole to another. Every creature received its light, which is wisdom and power of my Spirit, and these spokespersons who have served me at this stage will remain in this world for one more time to give testimony of me. 37. Spokesman, penetrate in prayer, in vigil, and carry my word always alive in your spirit. And when the last day of my communication has come, unify yourselves with Moses, and think that the hour is similar to that in which the envoy, the legislator, saw the moment approaching to present his work before me. Identify yourselves with the Master, and live his agony on the cross, so that you pray, and imitating him in that supreme hour, say, everything has been consummated. My peace be with you.